The woman was just 20 years old and already had a 15-year-old daughter. They both fell in love with the male lead. The male lead discovered that the girl was an exceptional dual cultivation furnace. He reminded the mother and daughter not to reveal their identities casually, in order to keep the benefits within their own hands. Shen Shi took the girl as his disciple. After making arrangements for the mother and daughter, he headed towards Duanli Mountain. He went to Duanli Mountain intending to steal a tower, but unexpectedly, she discovered Yu Wushuang was bound. Shen Shi immediately rescued Wushuang. Wushuang blushed and wanted to buy some 5 elements fruits from Shen Shi. Shen Shi didn't want to sell. She blushed even more. So, she offered 5 high-quality pills to buy the 5 elements fruits. The toad was stunned. Heroine, if you just state a price, you could get everything. Why are you fighting? Shen Shi couldn't bear to watch. He actually exchanged such precious pills for cheap fruit. As expected of his ex-girlfriend, Wu Shuang looked forward with anticipation. She even searched through her own purse, taking out even better Han spirit stones. No, this won't do, but the money bag is precious. She is reluctant to part with it. The clam beside her suggested to Shen Shi to kill and seize the treasure. Shen Shi glared angrily, scaring it off. He told Wu Shuang to remember not to flaunt wealth when going out. She was about to cry. She had sneaked out this time. Why is she feeling wronged now? Shen Shi waved his hand towards the big tree. Wu Shuang sighed. Shen Shi gave her a 5 elements fruit. She looked very happy. Shen Shi told her to go home early. She looked at Shen Shi, feeling moved. This person in front of her seemed like her ex-boyfriend. She must be overthinking it. She felt it wasn't right to take her things without reason. Shen Shi thought for a moment. He asked for the transformation pill and the Great Luo Profound Gold. Upon hearing Great Luo Profound Gold, her face instantly lit up with admiration. She didn't expect to meet such a big shot. She took out the Spirit Calling King sword and gave it to Shen Shi. This sword's price could buy this entire forest 7 times over. She said the sword could allow him to contact her anytime. She asked for Shen Shi's name. He quickly gave her a fake name in return. After sending off the wealthy woman Wushuang, he noticed the toad trying to escape. The toad was startled and panicked. He wanted to use a transformation pill to turn it into a spirit pet. The toad insisted that more money was needed. Shen Shi had a thorough conversation with it. The toad instantly agreed. He had the toad swallow the pill. He also had to prepare to protect it. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 demonic beasts charged out. Shen Shi still used his wave-crushing slash. A massive horde of beasts surged forward. The toad worried that this time they would fail. Shen Shi asked it to absorb the spiritual energy quickly. He also helped gather some spiritual energy for it. He gently blew. The spiritual energy from the entire forest gathered together. The toad was drenched in cold sweat. This golden elixir of yours probably contains several million elixirs. Shen Shi thought about how to communicate with the beast herd in a friendly manner. Got it, let's just greet them first. A green barrier enveloped the herd. Since you're here, stay. Shen Shi charged into the herd with a wave-riding slash. He quickly annihilated the herd. How was that? He Dai said. You only know wave-riding slash, you bastard. Watching Shen Shi collect the loot, the toad felt that humans were too scary. Shen Shi found a pair of black stockings. His mind started to wander. What if Han Xiener wore black stockings? The toad interrupted his fantasy. Shen Shi decided to give the toad a name. By the way, you're a male, right? I'm female. Last episode, you were still lusting after the pink toad. The toad was startled. That was its first love. Shen Shi decided to find it another partner later. He looked at the toad's green body. He decided to name it Xiao by 7. Meanwhile, in the Muling Fortress, Shanshan was sulking. A few old men want to arrange a marriage between Yijiang and the prince. That way, they can pocket the dowry. Shan Shan looked furious. Absolutely not. These old fools will eventually drain Muling Fortress dry. At that moment, the prince walked in. He had already set his sights on the mother and daughter. He also wanted to take them both into his harem. Shan Shan rejected him. She even had the elder escort him out. Seeing the elder, Prince was shocked. He didn't expect that there would be an immortal stationed at Wood Spirit Castle. How much is Wood Spirit Castle offering you? I'll offer 3 times that. The elder wasn't polite and prepared to cast a spell. Seeing this, the two of them could only flee. Shen Shi, who had been watching from the beam, witnessed everything. He took Xiao Bai and went to Yu Ting's boudoir. At this moment, Yu Ting was meditating. She suddenly opened her eyes. She saw Shen Shi sitting right in front of her. Shen Shi couldn't help but praise Yu Ting for her rapid progress. Yu Ting happily rushed toward Shen Shi. She sat on Shen Shi's lap. Shen Shi patted her head. Yu Ting was acting cute in his arms. He decided to fulfill any request Yu Ting had. Any request? A picture began to form in Yu Ting's mind. Shinshi stared at her in shock as she had a nosebleed. It's just that I've been eating too much tonic lately. Shinshi had a bad feeling inside. This nosebleed probably doesn't mean that. He took out the small white thing Xiao Bai gave Yu Ting. Master, are you leaving again? Shinshi held her in his arms. At that moment, a teacup fell. Shanshan stared blankly at everything. In her eyes, Yu Zhang's eyes were filled with tears. There's still blood on the skirt. Shanshan, listen to my explanation. Unexpectedly, the door was mercilessly shut. Shanshan cursed Shinshi as a beast the whole way. Could it be that she's getting old and Shinshi doesn't find her attractive anymore? Shinshi suddenly appeared behind her. Madam, you're young and beautiful. How could you be old? Shanshan turned around. Shinshi frantically tried to explain the earlier scene to her. She said, I understand. What did I misunderstand? There's no need to worry about my feelings, sir. Shinshi thought she was flirting with him. He suddenly hugged Shanshan. Then his face turned red. Shyly, he ran back. Shinshi felt too relaxed on the road. Suddenly, the Spirit King's sword appeared before him with a ding sound. Could Yu Wushuang be having an online romance with him? At this time, Yu Wushuang was soaking in a hot spring. Shinshi, you scoundrel. You still want to hide it from me? This time, let's see where you run. The man started by stealing the main character's wife, still groping the girl's chest. The girl turned red in the face, embarrassed. Master, please stop touching me. Shinshi, however, said the quality of this dream is quite good. He couldn't help but indulge in the feeling. The girl was scared, her eyes brimming with tears. She cried out that it was not okay, but she didn't dare to run away, afraid of being beaten to death by this master. Shinshi exclaimed in amazement. Unexpectedly, the touch is really good. This doesn't feel like a dream. He looked at his apprentice who was slumped on the ground. He felt like his head was about to split open. His apprentice was trembling with fear. If the master dies, she is about to face a round of intense questioning. Fortunately, Shinshi is fine. He is gently stroking her face. Unexpectedly, the disciple is even more panicked. The master has a violent temper. How did he suddenly become so gentle? Shinshi had no choice but to change his expression. It startled her. The disciple finally calmed down. It seems the master is fine. Shinshi slapped his forehead. He didn't expect his disciple to be so naive. He thought about how he had crossed over into the novel he wrote. He had become the villain. Later, he had his cultivation ruined by the protagonist. Moreover, he had taken the protagonist's wife, Song Yuling. Just thinking about it, Shinshi couldn't help but curse. What a load of nonsense. If I'd known, I would have written myself as a golden finger. Suddenly, he thought of how time-traveling characters often had a golden finger. He cast a spell to summon the villain system. But instead, he summoned loneliness. Shinshi felt utterly hopeless in that instant. Yuling leaped into his arms. He looked down at Yuling in his arms. He instantly remembered. According to the current time, he hasn't yet made an enemy of the protagonist. Looks like he'll have to cling to the protagonist's thigh. Thinking this way, his life finally had some hope. He touched Yuling's face, determined to change his image. But unexpectedly, Yuling was scared and started crying. Master, I'm still young. Shinshi can only change into 7 fierce faces. Yuling has calmed down. Shinshi gently stroked her head. He wants to improve his relationship with his disciples. Suddenly, someone had something to report. When Shinshi heard that familiar voice, he remembered that the person was his second disciple, Xianyu. Originally, the main character who was supposed to be protected was beaten to death by him. Now he wouldn't do something so stupid. Mainly because of Xianyu's curvaceous figure. Then let me see how she looks. Xianyu was seen kneeling on the ground, saying, Xingjing Hall sent an invitation. Shinshi saw it and exclaimed, nice. He realized it. Let's see the invitation. Unexpectedly, Xianyu broke out in a cold sweat. She trembled. Seeing the queen's appearance, Shinshi had already realized she was lying for her junior apprentice sister. He decided to give his 2 disciples a way out. Xianyu was overjoyed. Watching Shinshi walk into the room, Xian Wang's face flushed slightly. He didn't expect his master to be so handsome. Yuling saw through Xian Wang's little secret at a glance. At this time, Shinshi also went to the Shui Rong herb garden. The herbs here are all game-breaking. But he wrote this plot himself. What could possibly go wrong? Suddenly, he froze. A big problem has occurred. He is a master who loves to beat his disciples. Now his medicinal garden has been eaten bald by Kuan Kuan. Angry, Shinshi immediately called for his disciples. Shinshi came to a disciple, told her to stand up. Looking at his disciple's fiery temper, Shinshi felt a bit irritated. He remembered that this disciple was named Han Xiener. She was the most talented among his 4 disciples. Looking at Han Xiener's figure, Shinshi decided to train her well. Suddenly, His expression changed. He questioned his disciple, who is responsible for this place? Seeing the disciples' apprehensive faces, Shenshi guessed it. The person guarding the medicinal herb garden was his eldest disciple, Guyuri. However, Guyuri had been punished by him a few days ago. Several disciples knelt down in fear, begging for mercy. Shenshi put on a displeased expression. Are you teaching me how to do things? Then he waved his hand. Tell the apprentices to scram. I didn't expect the apprentices to actually roll down. Shenshi wondered if he was that terrifying. He went to visit Yuli. Unexpectedly, opening the door, he found Yuli was taking a bath. Yuli quickly turned around in fright. Shenshi quickly closed the door. His face was filled with happiness. He actually saw the beauty bathing. However, Yuli was covered in wounds. Yuli was his first disciple. In the original storyline, she was also the last person to stay by his side. Shenshi felt a bit heartbroken. He swore that such a thing would never happen again. Inside the room, Yuli was afraid that her master might lose control of his beastly nature. She heard that there had been no sound outside the house for a long time. She felt a bit disappointed. Could it be that her master wasn't interested in her? Suddenly, Shenshi made his move again. He came in front of Yuli. He unbuttoned his pants. He also asked Yuli to open her mouth. Yuli shyly closed her eyes. Master, no. Her delicate face flushed red. Her body couldn't handle master's training anymore. Shenshi expressionlessly stuffed something into her mouth. Yuli trembled. Shenshi told her it was a rare yuanling pill. He told her to let it digest the medicinal power. Yuli looked at him in surprise. Her body emitted strands of golden light. She quickly began her cultivation. Shenshi watched Yuli with a look of satisfaction. She should be able to break through to Foundation establishment this time. Late at night, the two disciples secretly visited the senior sister. Yuling confidently said, "Tonight is master's cultivation time." Xian Yu, however, was a bit worried. It's better to be cautious. What if master finds out? That would be disastrous. Xian Yu tentatively knocked on the door. There was no response from inside. The two of them were greatly alarmed. Could it be that the senior sister has already been knocked out by master? Song Yuling used a headbutt to slam against the door. Xian Yu was stunned by the sight. With a loud bang, the door was knocked open by Yuling. She lay on the ground, clutching her head in pain and rolling around. Xian Yu was completely shocked by the scene before her. The senior sister actually ascended to immortality. Yuling, standing nearby, drooled. What a massive herby peak. Suddenly, a hand grabbed the collars of both of them. The man actually took advantage of his female disciple bathing to untie the bitter tea. He even made her open her mouth. This scene was, however, discovered by two other female disciples. Before they could react, they were caught by Shenshi. Shenshi was seen standing behind them. The two female disciples looked at Shenshi in terror. When Shenshi saw the elixirs they were holding, he understood everything. He said lightly, "Your senior sister is in the middle of a breakthrough. Go back." After speaking, Shenshi led the two of them away. Along the way, Yuling was curious as to why the master treated the two this way. This question puzzled the usually sharp Xian Yu. What they didn't know was that Shenshi originally wanted to change the course of the story, but now, he only wanted to be a good mentor. Shenshi returned to Baifeng to cultivate. However, he had only cultivated for a short while, and had already broken through to the golden core stage. He could even feel the Tao of heaven trying to please him. Shenshi was so happy that he jumped up. Heaven is blowing its own whistle, but it still needs to suppress the realm. That way, it can continue to cling to the protagonist's leg. His loud laugh instantly pierced through the valley. Yuling sleepily came out of her room. The two senior sisters could tell that the junior sister hadn't slept well. The junior sister reported that the master's laugh yesterday was too terrifying. It scared her so much she couldn't sleep. After washing up, everyone rushed towards the top of the mountain. Shenshi lazily yawned. Yuli leaned in close to his ear. "Master, the junior sisters are all here." Shenshi casually glanced over. It seems that last night, each of them broke through to the Foundation establishment stage. He looked at the few of them, panting and exhausted, like little treasures. Shenshi decided to properly train them from now on. The two disciples accepted the order. Only Han Xiener, however, said she had to go work. She felt that she was a useless person with no talent for cultivation. Shenshi remembered that he hadn't taught her any cultivation techniques. He asked Han Xiener her age. Han Xiener kneeled and answered, "I am 14 this year." Shenshi looked at the two mountain peaks. 14 is indeed not young. He understood that the golden age for cultivation is between 9 and 12 years old. 14 means that the meridians are fixed. Shenshi gently stroked her head. He decided to teach her the introductory cultivation method. Han Xiener excitedly shed tears. This was 4 years ago in the Immortal Palace, despite others' ridicule. She accepted her master. She threw herself into Shenshur's arms and started crying. Shenshur looked at her with a gentle expression. This scene shocked the two disciples. Is this really our master? Yue smiled. The old Shenshur had returned. After some training, junior sister shouted that her feet hurt badly. Xian Wang poured a basin of water on himself. He comforted junior sister not to think like that. Beside them, Han Xiener was hurrying down the mountain to cook. Junior sister took the chance to sneak attack Han Xiener on two peaks. Do you think master has been too strict lately? But in the end, I got lectured. Master not only passed on his skills to me, he even gave me his jade warm bed to cultivate. Yu Ling was very curious. Was her master originally such a gentle person? Xian Yu patted Yu Ling's head. The disciples on Erbai Peak were originally outcasts. I lacked talent. Han Xiener was because of her status. And you, it's because you're a bit simple-minded. I'm not, I'm quite smart. Anyone willing to take in junk is definitely a good master. Zhongshan's Han Xiener ran into He Baifeng's senior brother. She remembered that not long ago, several senior brothers took some soft grass. The senior brother said He Baifeng lost a few cranes. They were coming to search for them. At the same time, they emphasized how precious the cranes were. Upon learning the crane's whereabouts, Han Xiener was shocked. No wonder the crane is so delicious. She awkwardly turned her head, signaling that she hadn't seen it before. She even made up an excuse, trying to prevent them from going up the mountain. The senior brother immediately got angry. How dare a useless person act all high and mighty? They're really asking for trouble. The few people behind him quickly reminded him. This is a disciple of Master Shenshurjan. The senior brother, upon hearing this, showed a sinister smile. He knew that Shenshur didn't care about the disciples' lives at all. Han Xiener's gaze turned cold. She blocked the incoming attack with a single palm. Senior brother, do you really intend to make a move at Erbai Peak? Senior brother, you'll lose face. You must have been stealing teachings. I'm going to teach you a lesson on behalf of Shenshur. Han Xiener was a little afraid, but she decided to fight. At that moment, a voice rang out from behind her. You also want to teach my disciple a lesson? Shenshur merely flicked his sleeve, and sent a group of people flying. Shenshur praised Han Xiener for doing well. Then he let out a cold snort. Several people knelt down and begged for mercy. Shenshur told them to get lost. He asked them what they were doing there. After learning it was about the cranes, he got a headache. He had hoped to get rich by raising these mountain cranes. But nothing happened. He turned to ask about Yu Li's situation, and handed her a book of magic. Yu Li was deeply touched, but the fact that her master didn't scold her made her feel uncomfortable. The Dingxian sect held the Immortal Seed Conference. Even other immortal sects came to observe. Shenshur crossed his legs. It's time to take it seriously. Senior sister Luo next to him took a liking to Shenshur. They also said that if there's no dark history, they could consider it. Shenshur felt like someone was saying he's handsome. He gently. But the scene before him made him fall under a spell. A seductive mature woman actually lifted her clothes in public, just to attract a man's attention. But the man looked at her with disdain. Such a low-class seduction. He wiped his nosebleed, and said he'd been eating too much tonics lately. Yuling stared in shock. She frantically gestured with her hands in front of her chest. This air by Feng is even bigger than the senior sisters. The elders nearby burst into laughter after hearing this. Shenshur smiled and sighed, lamenting how the world is going downhill. But deep inside, he felt a bit somber. Because his enemy, Shao Qi, is about to appear. At this moment, Shao Qi is swiftly walking on the iron chain. His fluid and seamless movements make the sect leader repeatedly praise him. A group of elders also suggested he be properly trained. The sect leader told everyone to be patient. He looked at Shenshur. He wanted to give Shao Qi to Shenshur to make up for his past debts. Over the years, Shenshur has been accepting disciples like collecting junk, taking in the discarded trash of others. He planned to look around more to see if there were other good prospects, to help Shenshur take in a few more. Little did he know, Shenshur smiled. Does he really think Shao Qi is so great? Soon, the disciples passed the test. One by one, they went on stage to test their spiritual roots. The group of old men scrambled to take in disciples. Yu Li saw this and asked Shenshur, aren't you worried about not recruiting any disciples? Yu Ling excitedly said, Master likes to take in trash disciples, he's a king of trash. Shenshur thought to himself, that's not a compliment. Why are you so happy? At this time, a girl surprisingly tested as having a pure wood spiritual root. Shenshur was greatly surprised. This is Shao Qi's first harem member. The sect leader asked Shenshur if he would be willing to take her as his disciple. A group of elders were furious, gnashing their teeth. This promising talent was actually given to Shenshur, but Shenshur refused. He suggested that the girl would be better off with Bai Ran. Bai Ran felt that he was unworthy of being a master. Even the elders thought Bai Ran wasn't suitable. Shen Shi authoritatively declared, "If I ask you to take it, you take it. Who agrees, who disagrees?" This made Bai Ran a bit moved. Shen Shi waved for the girl to come over. He even took out a piece of cake and fed it to her. Shen Shi pinched her cheek. "When you accept a favor, don't bite the hand that feeds you. You can't go around killing me with that little rascal, Shao Qi." Bai Ran thanked Shen Shi. Shen Shi waved his hand. "You're welcome. You were always the most suitable master." Shen Shi smiled slightly. The real show is about to begin. Shao Qi took the stage to test her spiritual roots. As the spiritual platform started to operate, everyone looked on with anticipation. Shen Shi wore an expression of disdain. "Let's see who will want him later." At that moment, a fire spiritual root slowly appeared above Shang Qi's head. The sect leader looked delighted. He wanted to take Shao Qi as his disciple. At that moment, a wood spiritual root also appeared above Shang Qi's head. Bai Ran was stunned. A dual spiritual root is also a decent aptitude. Suddenly, a third spiritual root appeared above Shang Qi's head. This is already a mediocre aptitude. Even the sect master feels it's a pity. Shao Qi anxiously looked around. 5 spiritual roots had already appeared above his head. The elders all laughed mockingly. This is simply a waste with no cultivation aptitude. Shao Qi trembled all over. The sect leader awkwardly asked everyone who was willing to take him as a disciple. Elder 1 cast his gaze toward Shen Shi on the platform. Shen Shi was speechless. "You might as well just say my name." Seeing no one willing to take him in, Shen Shi walked over to him. "Little brat, what's your name?" Shen Shi said calmly. Tears shouldn't appear on a man's face. Shao Qi wiped away his tears. Shen Shi asked him if he was willing to become his disciple. Shao Qi's "I am willing" echoed through the valley. He knelt on the ground. "Master, please accept your disciple's bow." Shen Shi turned around. Let Shao Qi go back with him. He was overjoyed inside. Yes, yes, yes. It's this kind of look. Favorability is maxed out. From now on, he can just be a freeloading parasite. Shen Shi took Shao Qi back to the room. Yuli could tell that Shen Shi really liked this disciple. Shen Shi also took out a qi gathering pill to help Shao Qi with cultivation. Yuli was astonished. The junior brother who just entered the sect shouldn't be rushed. Shen Shi explained. This pill is perfect for Shao Qi, whose body is pure and untainted. Yuli realized she had been rash. She asked Shen Shi to punish her. Shen Shi refused. Unexpectedly, Yuli looked disappointed. Shao Qi felt like he had just eaten dog food. He weakly called out to his master. The two of them were a bit awkward. They quickly asked Shao Qi if he needed anything. To their surprise, Shao Qi revealed a secret. On the surface, he looked like a little boy, but in reality, he was a cross-dressing tough guy. He even transformed into a scheming loli to tease his master. The master was dumbfounded. Although his disciple was overly mature, he still decided to teach her the introductory skill. Shao Qi, however, clung to her master, taking advantage of her small stature. She restlessly moved her body. "That's not how you do the energy transmission posture." Shao Qi looked at her master with a slightly flushed face. "Master, you've seen through my disguise, haven't you? Your family has fallen from grace. There are many bandits on the road. It's only natural for you to disguise yourself as a man." That said, Shen Shi felt like crying inside, but then he thought, it's more comfortable to ride when a loli is disguised as a boy. He took out a book of cultivation techniques, decided to teach Shao Qi how to pretend to be rich. On the other side, Han Siener brought out the fragrant dishes from the kitchen, but Yuli standing nearby seemed a bit off. This gave Han Siener a bad feeling. Outside, the two troublemakers smelled the food and rushed over. Xian Yu was so shocked by the roasted crane that her jaw dropped. She hurriedly ran towards Han Siener. "This is the master's most cherished pet." Then Shen Shi and the others rushed over. Shen Shi drooled at the smell of the roasted immortal cranes, but the next moment he reacted. "Damn! My baby was roasted, and they were 2 females." Shao Qi was a little confused and wanted to ask her senior sister. The senior sister hurriedly told her not to speak. Shen Shi shouted angrily. A few disciples knelt on the ground, trembling in fear. Shen Shi sighed. He tried to comfort himself, thinking that these were just material possessions. Suddenly, a hand tugged at his sleeve. It was Yuli, lowering her head and admitting that it was her fault. She even told the master to punish her severely. Shen Shi was fuming. But the atmosphere had reached this point. Not punishing would be impossible. Just as Shen Shi was thinking about how to punish them, Shao Qi suggested hitting PG hard. Shen Shi thought about it. That was a good idea. He struck a pose. Let Yuli lie on his lap. He looked at Yuli's figure. Shen Shi reminded himself to stay calm. Otherwise, this master's reputation would be over. With a forceful strike, Yuli let out a soft gasp. The disciples' faces turned red with embarrassment. He continued to strike for a while. Shen Shi was out of breath from exhaustion. Yuli's face was bright red. He could tell that Yuli was a masochist. Shen Shi drooped his head and floated out, dejected. This heavenly Tao brother sure knows how to have fun. A few disciples quickly rushed forward to check for injuries. Unexpectedly, Yuli leaned into Xian Wang's ear. She asked her to get a pair of pants for her. Xian Yu, don't run out of the room. Leaving two people behind, both with confused expressions. Xiao Qi saw the senior sister's face turning red. She smiled. At this moment, Shen Shi was lying exhausted in the bathtub. He sighed, thinking that Yuli was truly terrifying. A voice from outside the door, "Master," made him alert. He saw Yuli walking into the room, wrapped in a scarf. She even offered to help Shen Shi scrub his back. She lifted her foot and was about to step into the bathtub. She didn't forget to tease Shen Shi. Shen Shi told her to leave quickly. But Yuli's body had already entered the bathtub. She told her master to punish her properly. Shen Shi felt like he could barely hold on. Suddenly, a loud shout from outside startled both of them. Yuli felt a little at a loss. Shen Shi pointed to the wardrobe behind her and told her to hide inside. Yuli shyly walked into the wardrobe. Shen Shi didn't forget to clean up the scene. Xiao Qi ran in at this time. She looked around the room. She said she was here to ask her senior sister questions. Suddenly, she saw the wardrobe and smiled. Shen Shi was shocked inside. Has it been discovered? Xiao Qi immediately ran out to serve tea. Yuli, inside the wardrobe, felt a heat spreading through her body. She picked up the clothes and sniffed them. It was her master's scent. This made her unable to stop herself from making a sound. Hearing movement in the wardrobe, Shen Shi was stunned. At this moment, Xiao Qi also came in holding a cup of tea. She pretended to trip and spill the tea. She felt quite pleased with herself. As long as she could wet the master's clothes, she could go to the wardrobe and get him some new clothes. But suddenly, she froze. Shen Shi not only caught her, but also caught the spilled tea. Xiao Qi rushed into her master's arms upon seeing this. With a pitiful look, she said it was all her fault. Shen Shi felt that the little girl was definitely doing this on purpose. Xiao Qi's delicate hand rested on Shen Shi's body. Master is still the best. Shen Shi comforted himself inwardly. She must not understand. She had been pestering Shen Shi for several hours. Shen Shi was exhausted and collapsed on the floor. He opened the wardrobe. Yuli was inside, so hot she could barely breathe. Shen Shi thought this would make her behave. Unexpectedly, she climbed out and asked Shen Shi to punish her. Shen Shi had no choice but to urge her to change her clothes quickly. Because staying here was too dangerous. Shen Shi decided to go down the mountain. Shen Shi put on his backpack and began his journey. The woman had been single for 18 years but had a 14-year-old daughter, and both of them developed a liking for the male lead. The mother stepped forward and called him little brother. The male lead turned red and looked at the two of them. He felt like the mother and daughter were calling him little brother in a teasing way. The daughter couldn't help but laugh. The mother was completely confused. She began to introduce herself. She is Losong Sang, the lord of Muling Castle. Her daughter's name is Yuding. Shen Shi casually made up a name to get by. Losong Sang saw through his fabrication. However, she still asked Shen Shi if he wanted to continue his journey. Unexpectedly, Shen Shi was very decisive. He immediately bid them farewell. This completely baffled Shanshan. The girl next to her laughed even louder. Shen Shi informed the two that he was going to Duanli Mountain. If they were going the same way, he asked the mother and daughter for a ride. The mother and daughter blushed. If the young master doesn't mind. In the tent at the campsite late at night, Yuding was a little curious. Why does mom want to go with Shen Shi and them? Shan believes that anyone brave enough to go to Duanli Mountain is definitely not ordinary. Moreover, she can't figure Shen Shi out. Yuting made up her mind. If Shen Shi is an expert, she'll marry him. Shen Shi, outside the tent, felt like someone was talking about him. The guard beside him was worried he might catch a cold. Let him sleep in his own tent. Shen Shi declined the guard's kind offer. The guard started chatting with Shen Shi. Over the years, Muling Fortress has nearly been wiped out by hostile forces. The madam wants to send Yuding to Yuhua sect for protection. Shen Shi recognized the familiar name, Yuhua sect. It's a very, very large sect. The guard exhaled. The young lady was still picked up by the madam years ago. Shen Shi didn't expect this to be a mother plant with its own industry. His expression suddenly changed. The enemy has arrived. The guard was startled. He immediately became alert. Since it's fate, then I'll help you. A group of masked assassins charged towards the camp with knives. Shan quickly gathered her guards to face the enemies. She still remembered to tell Shinshir to hide behind her. Shinshir was somewhat moved. He glanced at Yuting. Better protect this mother and daughter first. The guards were already locked in a fierce battle with the assassins. A hidden arrow was shot at Shinshir. The old man waved his finger. A beam of light interrupted the hidden arrows. Shan Shan was grateful for the old man's help, but she never expected a barrage of arrows to follow. The old man activated a shield. It blocked the hidden arrows. He waved his finger again, cleaning up the assassins in no time. A person appeared in the sky. It turned out to be just a lone cultivator. The elder withdrew his sword. He noticed the person in the sky. At this moment, another person walked out of the woods. She could tell their intentions. This person spoke directly. This time, it's not just about robbing wealth, but also about robbing beauty. Shan Shan hoped the old man would intervene. But to her surprise, the old man shook his head helplessly. He was no match for him. Shinshir was ready to make a move. Shan Shan stopped him. She told Shinshir to find a chance to escape. She wanted to use herself to give Shinshir and Yuting a chance to flee. The assassin, however, wore an evil grin. He wants both mother and daughter. The old man decided to help the mother and daughter one last time. The assassin swung a rope, tying the old man up. The old man let out a helpless sigh. Shan Shan quickly and secretly handed Shinshir the case, to save his life. But Shinshir held on to him. He even held Yu Zhang's little hand. The two assassins were enraged. Where did this kid come from? A killing intent appeared in Shinshir's eyes. A black mist shot up into the sky. The pressure he emitted caused the two assassins to freeze in fear. Yuting felt an unprecedented sense of safety. Shan Shan leaned against Shinshir's body. Several people thanked Shinshir. Shinshir scratched his head. He's not that young at all. Xing thanked the young master. Shinshir said calmly, Xing should come down now. An assassin, upon hearing this, betrayed his accomplices. This person retrieved his treasure and then abandoned it. The two fought over it. Shinshir stopped them. He wanted to fully experience the thrill of being a villain. Shinshir proposed that whoever could give him the treasure within 20 breaths would be spared. His accomplice attacked the assassin. He knelt in front of Shinshir, holding the treasure. Shinshir wore a faint smile. 5 more seconds. A knife pierced through his chest. The assassin handed the treasure to Shinshir. Just as he was about to thank him for sparing his life, the old man slit his throat. Shan Shan was very grateful to Shinshir. The old man found a rope on the assassin. Shinshir took a look at it. It turned out to be a high-grade spiritual item. He lifted the restriction and handed it back to the old man. This is too valuable. Shinshir said he had no use for it. Yes, yes, yes. It's that kind of otherworldly expert vibe. Yuting blushed and asked Shinshir to stay. The mother and daughter asked Shinshir to join them in the carriage. Shinshir happily let out a joyful exclamation. The convoy passed through the valley. The mother and daughter panted lightly along the way. Shinshir said it was quite sweet. He had heard that Yuting was going to the Yuhua sect to become a disciple. Shan Shan explained. Yuting is still young. She needs to seize the opportunity. Yuting blushed. Most girls are already getting married. She really isn't that young anymore. Shinshir coughed a few times. Yuhua sect practices dual cultivation. This startled Shanshan. What is the method of dual cultivation? Not suitable for children. Let me first assess your aptitude. Shinshir pointed his finger at Yuting's head. Yu Jiang felt both hot and extremely comfortable. Shan Shan covered her mouth. Throat this. After a moment, Yuting collapsed onto Shinshir. Shinshir looked at Yuting. He showed a serious expression. From now on, I can duo Q with the righteous female DZ. She also needs to see the true faces of the senior brothers. I had no choice but to pull her up to the roof. She sincerely begged me to rescue her sister. This scene happened to be witnessed by my cheap master. Two blows left him skinned and bleeding, 3 blows damaged his internal organs. Surprisingly, the master quickly arrived before them. Tracking her would be easily discovered. She followed the master to a mysterious place. From now on, I can duo with a righteous female DZ. just as Hong Lao thought he had the upper hand and was about to strike. Before leaving, I politely shook her hand. although she also couldn't believe what she saw. I had no choice but to drag her to the roof. She sincerely begged me to rescue her sister. The Earth Dragon Hall. This scene just happened to be witnessed by my shameless master. The second strike left her skin torn and flesh mangled, the third strike damaged her internal organs. What was astonishing was that my master quickly arrived before them. Following her was still easy to detect. She was following my master to a mysterious place. It's just as I thought. The techniques of immortal arts work. The power of immortal arts. Immortal arts involve absorbing the natural energy around you into your body. It's a power created by combining physical energy and spiritual energy. Fortunately, I learned immortal arts before. Here we go.